And these are some of our favorite episodes. We get to talk about food, nutrition,
Let's go.
and the reason we love it is because it is fuel. If you have a fast car, beautiful car, you've been dreaming about it forever, you get it. You go to step on you turn on the engine, or you try and turn on the engine, try and step on the gas, and nothing happens because you got no fuel. Then the vehicle is useless. You can't go anywhere with it. You can't enjoy it. You can't experience it. Can't share it with anybody. That's why we love to talk about food, because we see it as fuel and not the boring, oh, we're just going to put this bland stuff in our body so that we have energy. We love our food. Like, we love food. We love the way it tastes, looks, smells, sight, sounds, talking about it. We love it. And so that's why we love to, this is one of our favorite topics. We've talked about food for years, just different things, tweaking all the things. So today we're going to talk about simple changes that you can do to transform your health. And by focusing on food, it's one of the number one ways to do it. There are multiple ways, but the food is just such a key ingredient. Here's the thing: you've heard all this information before. It's just
Mm.
information. And why have you not done anything with it in the past? Why have we not done things with it in the past? What was the difference maker? You see these people who have these transformations. What did they do differently? At what point did they say, this is the time? I'm going to stick with this, or whatever it is that needs to happen. I'm going to continue to do it. So we're going to discuss that as well today. That will be integrated in all the things that we say. So with this information that you're going to get, start visualizing how you can implement it into the vision of yourself, because I think that's where it starts, right? You have to understand that, where are your possibilities? Stop and ask yourself, what is possible for me? Where are you currently at? Are you happy with your health? Do you feel good? Looking good is great, but way more important than looking good is feeling good. I'll take feeling good over looking good any day. I've been in a place where I've looked good and felt terrible. I was low fat body percentage, but my joints, everything was inflamed. I had muscle, everything seemed good on the outside, but I did not feel good. And it wasn't, I was on the hunt to try and feel good. And then that started happening. And I know for me, it was the big difference maker. So you have to ask yourself, what is it that you want out of eating healthy? What is your ultimate goal there? So then you can apply these things, this information that you're going to get today, and really connect with it, so that when those difficult moments come of, oh, I'm a weak moment, I'm going to go do this instead. I'm going to eat this candy, or I'm going to eat these burgers and fries, or fried chicken, or cheesecake, or whatever it is. You have backup plans, and you have backup plans for your backup plans, and you have your vision and your why and your possibilities. And then this will become your norm at some point. It's crazy to think, if you step back 5, 6, 7 years, me and Sean, the things we're going to talk about today, impossible. No way. We would have laughed at ourselves. Like, you guys suck. That's loser talk, like, or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't even know what we would have said, but we'd have been like, no, we're going to enjoy these things. And we would have, and we did regret it. We didn't like it. Didn't make us feel good. So listening to this today, whatever shape you're in, whatever position you're in, think about what's possible for you. And over time, as we always say, you can make a difference. So we're going to go over these 5 simple transformational details that you can absorb. Start us off, Sean. Where do you want to go?
The first one that I have that hit home with me was that really made a change in my health, and that really has lifted everything else up, is by prioritizing whole foods over processed ones. And so what I mean by that is not the process. Think anything processed, McDonald's, Whataburger, anything that comes in a box, anything with basically 5+ ingredients. So there is a lot of processed foods out there. And let me tell you something. What I have learned in this journey of transforming health is that there are scientists out there, there are companies out there that are paid millions, billions of dollars to make sure that Cheeto, that burger, that pizza, that cookie keeps you coming back for more.
Yeah.
And so we are set up for failure. We're set up. We're set up for shame, for frustration, for not hitting our health goals and getting to where we want to go. Because let's be honest, right? Health affects everything. And so just like I say, everything rises and falls on leadership. With health, if you wake up the next morning, and I'm talking to the person in the video camera right now, you wake up the next morning and I feel fine. I feel great. I have had a whole foods breakfast, eggs, oats, some fruit like strawberries, and I've got my banana, my blueberries. I'm feeling great. I'm feeling optimal. Let's go. Then, if I place myself in started eating processed foods, where, you know what, it's a busy morning. I'm gonna stop at Chick-fil-A, give me some ranch sauce, give me some fried chicken, that biscuit with the butter on there, dip it in some ranch sauce. Oh, you know what? I'm hungry 3 hours later. I'm gonna give me a snack. I'm gonna go down to the vending machine, get me some cookies. All this stuff is processed food. Well, when I'm reflecting back, I'm like, I've done both. And I realized how I felt after I would eat the processed foods and after I eat the whole foods. I'm like, why is my energy draining? Why am I feeling fatigued? Why am I feeling groggy? Why am I feeling just slow and grumpy? And it really affected my attitude. And so then I started realizing, I'm like, oh, I said, because, well, I like the processed foods, but I like the whole foods, but I'm doing this because I don't have a reason, Ewan. I don't have a why on why I would choose whole foods over processed foods. And so once I tapped into that and go, you know what? I need this to fuel my body. I need this to help me in my journey to become the best version of myself, that 93 octane, that high octane in my body, so I can lead those around me, so I can empower the people in my community, my team members, my friends, my family. I started implementing and integrating the 80-20 rule, because you know what? Here's the thing. You're listening to this, you're like, but Sean, and I've heard this all around me, and I know you've heard it too. I love a good cheeseburger. I love a good pizza. I love a good cookie. It's so good. And I want it 4 hours later. I get it. I'm right there with you. But once you go through this process of finding that bigger picture, that why of this is what I need to do to become who I want to become in that journey, and you start visualizing, like Ewan said, and then that's where it starts. You start incrementally replacing things. And one of my things that I started replacing is, so instead of sugary snacks, and I know you could probably talk to this, instead of sugary snacks, I started replacing with fruits, berries, strawberries, banana. And then I had these in my household, right? Because you are the product of the environment in you. So if you have cookies in your household, guess what? You're going to eat cookies. And then I started opting in for lean proteins, ground turkey, chicken. And then I started including more vegetables that were high in fiber. Because when I'm listening to this, I'm like, I didn't understand fiber. What is that? Well, most Americans, they're getting 10, 15 grams of fiber. Well, fiber is what helps you stay fuller longer, is from what my understanding. And I'm sure there's more to that. But once I started eating the greens, that's why it's always recommended to eat the vegetables. Well, then you're not hungry for that cheeseburger, that pizza more often. And you feel better. You feel that sensation. You have that fuel for muscle repair, for recovery. And then overall, allows you to become the best version of yourself and show up when somebody knocks on your door, or your customer calls you, or a team member reaches out to you, or there's something that you want to do but you don't feel like doing it and you do it anyways. But you're not, when you go to the kid's birthday or to the soccer event, because you just put processed foods in your body, you crash 2 hours later versus prioritizing those whole foods. So that's my number one biggest transformation, is understanding the prioritizing the whole foods, the 80-20 rule, versus the processed foods on that, Ewan.
Man, no matter what your political views are, he's maybe a controversial figure, but Robert F. Kennedy Jr., he just came out with a video on YouTube, and I don't care what side of the line he's on, man. What he said, I loved what he said about food. He said that our system is set up for us to be annihilated. Like, the
Yep.
food system is just diabolical, and he's making it his mission. Of course, politician, can you believe him? I don't know. It's his mission to make America healthy again. And you can't deny that fact, because the sickness levels, the cancer, the diabetes, the heart issues have gone through the roof. I'm talking 1,000 plus X
Mm.
over the last 40 years. 1,000 plus X. Like, you're talking 60% of the country is got some kind of debilitating issue with their body. And it all stemmed when the food chain changed, how they processed food and how they sold it, how they marketed it, and what they told us what was good for us. And he dropped some stats, some statistics, and you can confirm all these. Over 1,000 chemicals and or ingredients that are in the American foods that are banned in Europe. They're banned. Why would you ban something?
Yeah.
They're banned because they are diabolical. He went in to say that through the process of getting oil out of the ground or coal, they process it to make it into the fuel form that they need, and there's byproducts, waste that they don't. They didn't know what to do with this waste, and they figured out they can color food with it,
Mm.
yellow coloring, yellow dye, right? So you think this sludge that they didn't know what to do with, this byproduct chemical, is coating the candy you're putting in your kid's mouth, candy you're putting in your mouth. That shows up in all kinds of ways. Brain fog, lack of sleep, like just pain in the body, inflammation, all those things show up. And so talking about processed food, it's not just, oh, you shouldn't eat it because it's bad for you. And there's these healthy options over here. It is, when you break it down to what it's doing to you, and again, this is information. It might not do anything for you. You might already know this, and you're still eating it. So you'd have to figure out a why. Like, how is it impacting your life negatively? And it's going to have to be so much the negativity, the impact that is going to have to be greater than your want to eat that. You're gonna have to break this habit. Would you not say that that's true for you? We had to break the habit,
100%.
the draw to eat those things that just taste so good, and they're deliberately, like you said, they're deliberately made that way so that we keep going back for more. It's terrible, And so we're talking about you like living the life you want is directly stemmed to what we're talking about. If you really connect that, if you're not eating well and you're eating poorly and these things are showing up in your body and you can't perform the way you'd want to perform, that's going to impact where you end up in your life. And so there's a lot at stake here on what we're talking about with just processed foods. So that's my soapbox. I don't know what you want to call that, but I just like people need to know, man.
Well, my thought is like somebody listening to this, like, well, yeah, the thing is, Ewan, we know that.
Yeah.
Like, we know what Coca-Cola does to a battery acid,
Yeah.
but we're still gonna drink it anyways.
And I did it. I know. And I've done it. And I'll still have some birthday cake too, like on a special occasion. And I still do it.
Yeah.
What is that?
And this leads me into my second one, which is get the body moving, right? So if you're that individual listening to this, you're like, man, you don't do exercise, you don't get your 10,000 steps in a day, or maybe you do work out. That's great, but get your body moving, because when you feel good, life is good. Vitality, right? We asked each of our members at the Run Club, Walk Club, at last Saturday, what's one word? And every single one of them, when they got their body moving, when they were either walking or jogging or running, every single one of them was aligned with either bliss, resilience, alive, feeling good, vitality. What was your word, Ewan?
Ascendancy.
Ascendance.
Moving
I still
on
don't
up,
know the
baby.
meaning of that word. What does that
You're
mean?
ascending. You're ascending to higher places. It's the
Ascending to
process
higher
of
places.
moving up.
Yes. So when you get your body moving and you put these whole foods in your body, you're creating a win-win out of life. And so one of the things that I've learned along this journey of being a student of the game, is there's two roads. The road where I can eat the processed foods and not work out because I don't feel like it, and because that's what society is doing. Or I can do the opposite of what society is doing, which is eat whole foods, the 80-20 rule, which I'll share about that here in a second. And then I'll also get my body moving. Now, am I going to be perfect? Absolutely not. I'm going to have hiccups. That's why we call it the 80-20 rule. That's why we have active recovery days. And that's why we give ourselves grace and we give ourselves love and self-respect. And you should too, listening to this. But if you can just make the smallest little tweak, the smallest little incrementals, that's where you're going to see the dividends pay huge returns in a month, 6 months, and 12 months. And so just some small actionable steps that you can start taking is, if you don't run, don't walk, don't jog. There's a lot of people in our community that don't do that. Take a 10-minute walk. And here's the key ingredient. You ready for something that I have learned along the way? When I eat that, if I eat a cookie out of that 20% rule, or that pizza slice, or that burger, here's a tip that I have learned from other individuals and applying it in my life. Go do a 10-minute walk right after you go eat that.
Mm.
because you get your body moving. You start your body digest. What do we do when we eat Cheetos, pizzas, cookies? Well, we continue to sit on the couch and watch baseball, football, whatever it may be. We continue to sit on the couch, or we may eat that and go right to bed.
Yeah.
Well, your body doesn't have time to digest, and we wonder why we're not sleeping.
D-
So go take a 10-minute walk.
Dana Kirkpatrick, big body biohacker, big believer in saunas, cold baths, red light, all that stuff. And I heard a short the other day, and she said a 10-minute walk after a meal in the evening will reduce your insulin levels by 60%. Your blood glucose response to it will by taking that walk, it will reduce those, which is what you want. You don't want you don't want high glucose in the body, so you want to burn that off, and
Yes.
because that leads to over insulin getting flooding the body, and then it can't do what it needs to do. And so, yeah, just getting that little bit of activity. That's it. Just 10 minutes. You'll see a huge dramatic difference on how if that was the only thing you did or took away from this, keeping the same way you're eating, like Sean was saying, very small incremental. There's no way we could do what we're doing now in one go. Just impossible. It's taken years to get here. And it's been a fun journey. Enjoyed it. It's been great learning. But yeah, that just, if you took anything away, just that 10-minute walk after dinner, start
Yes.
with that and just notice how you feel, notice the results, see how different you feel.
And the 80-20 rule, what it means 80% of the time. So if I have 21 meals in a week, 21 to 24 meals, then I'm eating whole foods. It goes back to the whole foods. And the other 20% of the time, maybe it's processed, maybe it's semi whole foods, semi processed. Because the question is nowadays, what's whole foods, what's processed, and so it gets super confusing. And this is where you have to get really curious. But once you go through this process, and keep it stupid simple, right? Don't overcomplicate it. Just these incremental processes. What I've learned is, I'm like Ewan said, I'm just going to apply one little thing, just one little thing. And maybe it, like I mentioned earlier, is opting in for lean proteins like chicken, or opting in for, instead of sugary snacks, a banana or strawberries, and just making the smallest little tweaks. But the 80-20 rule, the other 20% of the time, those other 4 or 5 meals, I may have a pizza, a small pizza, or I may have a cookie, or I may have a dark chocolate, something that is not going to fit in that 80%. And so here recently, we were at a wedding, and one of the individuals that is a raving fan, and we just love him. He's a great guy, good dude, athlete, and just continues to lean in and level up and live his best life. He came up to me and said, man, this 80-20 rule, like, I get it. I love it. And I've heard it on the podcast before. And I said, but I feel a sense of, hey, you're not following the 80-20 rule. And it's like, man, don't beat yourself up. I'm like, where are you at? He goes, oh, I'm at 50-50 right now. I'm 50% whole foods. I'm 50% processed. And I said, okay, well, tell me more. I was like, well, what's the 50%? I feel like I was almost in a coaching moment, Ewan.
Yeah, I love that.
And so in the 50%, he's like, well, 50% I'm eating good, but the other 50% I'm not. I'm like, okay, well, the 50% that you're not eating good, what are you doing? What's happening? He goes, well, those are the times I'm busy. I'm tired. I'm fatigued. I'm like, I mean, I resonate with that. Can I get an amen?
Sabotage.
And he said, I said, well, what time of day is that? He goes, usually breakfast and lunch, I'm good, but it's usually that afternoon time. And here recently, I've been taking care of my kid, and, my wife hasn't been around, and she's been, on a cruise, and I just struggle, this past week, 2 weeks. I was like, man, you're not alone. You're a human being. Give yourself grace, give yourself love. We're talking about it now. That's the first step is, hey, let's reflect on it. We need to make a pivot here. We need to make a change. So what are some healthy alternatives that you can do? And he goes, well, I don't know. That's why I came over here and asked you. I said, well, here's what I do. Well, so when the times that you're busy, that's you're forward thinking, backwards planning. You know that you're going to be exhausted and fatigued. So one of the things that I do is I plan ahead in advance. So either that's with a meal prep, or he goes, well, dude, I'm busy. I don't have time to meal prep. I said, okay, well, that's for a whole nother podcast and a whole nother conversation, but we won't talk about that now. Well, where is it that you're coming from? From Spring area to my home in Willis and Conroe area. I said, okay, well, what do you typically stop at? And this is where the guilty conscience played in you. And he goes, McDonald's. I was like, bro, McDonald's is my jam. I love some McDonald's. What do you get there? I was like, I love the double cheeseburger. That's like my 5% for the week. I love a good double cheeseburger.
Oh, yeah.
He goes, man, I just love that double cheeseburger, quarter pounder with fries and a drink. I'm like, all right. I said, let me ask you a question. I said, why do you go there versus like a Chick-fil-A, Popeyes, or some of the, Salada? He goes, honestly, it's just right off the freeway. McDonald's is everywhere on the corner. I said, well, yeah, McDonald's is smart. They know they own the real estate. They're going to put them every corner in the U.S. globally. And so they want you stopping there. I said, well, what if you have your why, you have a marathon coming up, right? It's winter season, is the separation season. Yeah, I got a marathon coming up. Okay. Well, you also like, what are some different healthy alternatives that you could turn to? He goes, well, what do you mean? I said, well, what if you went to like Popeyes or Chick-fil-A and opted in for their Popeyes has a blackened chicken? He goes, Popeyes has had a blackened chicken. Yeah, Popeyes got a blackened chicken. It's like a 6-piece. He goes, all right, well, let me try that. I said, dude, it's just incremental progress, just the smallest little things. Within 24 hours, he sent me a text message the next day. I forgot about it, honestly. And he said, bro, and he said, I'm about to try the blackened chicken from Popeyes. He
Yes.
sent me the message. I said, let me know how it turns out. He goes, dude, it's like, this was a treasure chest of food. I got my new place that I'm going to
Oh,
go to for a
great.
healthy alternative versus the cheeseburger because he's going to opt in for the blackened chicken.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Simple. See that like that's not groundbreaking, right? Like it's not groundbreaking that he's going to go
Yeah.
get some regular chicken versus the burger, but
Right.
it's all the decision. Think about how many times your hand goes to your mouth through the day, through the weeks, through the months and
Yeah.
years. Your hand goes up to your mouth and puts something in it, and when you change what goes in there with that chicken, that makes a difference. A
Yes.
tiny incremental difference. And you're going to feel a little better, you're going to look a little better, going to perform a little better. And you
Mm.
might not even notice it until you do. Until you do, you will think back and be like, dang, I used to feel this way and I don't anymore. And so it's that, just put that on repeat. And now that he's got that probably that dopamine hit, oh, what else now? Did
Yes.
this, what else? So that's the process. It's not some big, aha moment where you open your fridge and it's all salads and chicken breasts and salmon. It's not going
Nope.
to happen.
No.
It is the weak moments. You're driving home and you want that burger fries. Man, what I'm hearing there is a game plan. He sought advice,
Yeah.
got an idea, hadn't thought about it before. It was very simple, but if you hadn't thought about it before, your brain has to connect new patterns, new connections have to be made. And now that he's done it once, the brain has begun the habit process. Now it's going to be a little easier. He knows where to go. He knows what to get. He knows how much it's going to be. In a weak moment, you revert back to that. I know, at least I know what to do on autopilot. I go there. Could go to the burger. I'm going to go get the chicken instead. And you just keep doing that until it's autopilot, man. That's a perfect example of how you change your entire diet over time.
When you go into, speaking of diet, whole foods and getting your body moving, with those two, the third one is hydration, keeping your body hydrated. And
Huge.
this seems super simple, right? It's like, yeah, I get it. I need to keep my body hydrated. But I've heard of individuals that I know individuals today that don't drink water. That all they drink is soda pop, Coca Cola, and individuals in the past, and it's mind blowing. I'm like, man, if only if you just worked on this hydration, how different you would show up, how you would feel differently, and how it would help, for hunger and not to mention overeating. And so for me, it's like when I feel a sense of hunger during the day, the first thing that I do is I pick up my water bottle, and I have it
Yeah.
here. If you're watching on YouTube, like
Yes.
you'll probably watch the video, and I'll sit here and drink it. I'll drink a 40 ounce within 25-30 minutes.
Yeah.
So I'll drink multiple of these. So hydration is going to be key during the day. And I know we hear that all the time, but I think that's been a game changer. And so just incremental steps.
It's a hard one.
Yeah,
Water
it
is
is.
hard. It's man, run a marathon, we really understood like the importance of hydration and getting the electrolytes in there to make sure you're replenishing. And so like building the habit of that, even with the importance of me knowing how important that is, I still find myself like, oh, I gotta go get more water, because I'll do the same thing. I'll walk around, but soon that thing's empty. If I'm not cognizant of I need to go fill that up right now, it's not gonna end well. Like I make sure I have waters in the car, I have water
Yep.
at the house, like anywhere I go, environment. If I'm super thirsty and I'm like, man, if because when you're thirsty, you're tired, you're going home, you don't want to stop and get that water. So you just go another 20, 30 minutes, no water. You get home and maybe you're busy and you don't realize you got things to do. There's another 30 minutes. There's an hour
Yes.
of no water, no hydration. And that could go out to 2, 3 hours. And you don't realize the impact it's having on the body. Your blood thickness gets thicker when you're not hydrated, right? And so your brain can't think as fast. You're not going to sleep as good. Heart has to work harder. We don't think about these things, but that's the impact. Again, you walk around with that water, You just have to do it a few times to start building a habit. And
Mm,
just build it, and don't beat yourself up when you fail on that. Right? You just get back to it. Always get back to it. That's the key with this. Go screw it up. Give yourself the freedom to mess
that's
it all
right.
up and not feel guilty. Don't feel the shame. Just be like, you know what? I'm going to get back to it. Back to what I know I need to do. And just have that mindset of always get back to it, because that's how you level up for real on food.
That's pure gold, man. And this one leads into without this, we wouldn't be able to do any of these other things, which is quality of sleep.
Mm.
Prioritizing quality sleep. I aim to get 7 to 8 hours. I know you do as well, Ewan. Maybe it's plus or minus to that. And create an environment, right? 60 minutes. We've all heard these things. 60 minutes without technology, without the blue light, the TV screens from your phones before bed. Maybe read a book or maybe do a meditation, breath work. Maybe take a walk outside. Keep your room cool and dark. 7 8. I aim for 7 8 hours of sleep. And so here's the thing. One of the things that I've reflected on in my own life in sleeping here recently is that in our room we've done all these things, and this is how you've never listen. You're listening to this. You can work on these things, but the reason we say give yourself grace and compassion and just understand you're a student of the game. It's a journey, is because even myself being obsessed with all this is it's still never going to be a destination. It's always going to be a journey, which is a
Yeah.
beautiful thing, and I'm okay with that because it's just a shining north star. Well, here recently, I'm like, I have all these things, right? Sleep environment, cold, dark curtains, black curtains or blackout curtains, 60 minutes before bed, read a book. I do all the things. Well, in the last like 3 months, our AC, our room, our ceiling is about 12 feet tall in our room. And I've been waking up like during the night. I'm looking at my Aura Ring, my tracking device. And then I even asked Kendra when we do our coffee date, I was like, hey, are you waking up? She's like, yeah, I'm waking up. I said, let's look at the same time. Let's look at our times and see when we're waking up. We were waking up at the same time. We're like, what the heck,
What?
man? Well, here in the last week, we've been super intentional about like, what's going on? And, our dogs don't sleep in our room. There's no parties going on around us. There's no music. And it happened 2 days ago where I heard this little thumping noise. And I'm like, what the heck, man? And then I realized when I woke up, it did it multiple times that night. Well, at the top of our ceiling, we have a little air filter that's probably, I don't know, 25 inches long, 12 inches wide. Well, it was when the AC unit was kicking on,
Mm-hmm.
because we keep it at 68, it would suck the air filter up and make a loud
Oh,
noise, like a
dang.
thump. And
What?
yeah, and I was like, oh my gosh. And then I realized, like, at that moment, this is what's been freaking waking us up. And then the AC would cut off and it would drop back down and hit the air vent and then do that again throughout the night.
Wow, dude.
So yesterday, I got my ladder. I was like, screw this, man. I'm going to get my freaking ladder. I went up there and I taped the crap out of that air filter. And we slept so peacefully last night, had crowns on our sleep. And I was like, man,
Wow.
we just laughed about it because you can do you listening to this can do everything, right? You can set everything up, friendly environment, limit the screen time, 7 8 hours of sleep, 3 hours of eating before your bed. You can do all the hacks, but there's always going to be something, right? And
Yeah.
so just laugh about it, make the small little tweaks, the small little incrementals, and carry on, move forward. Tomorrow's a new day. This too shall pass.
Do you have a white noise machine?
No, I've tried that. I don't like them.
You don't like it? Okay, I was gonna
Yeah.
say
Do
that's
you
the
like them?
only. I can't sleep without them because I'm very sensitive to sounds, and so that white noise drowns it out for me, and I have to have it.
Mm,
Uh, Another hack. I mentioned this to the mastermind group last week, but I'm trying to, with the daylight savings, like it's screwed me out. I'm very sensitive to sleep. I'm not a great sleeper, and so I've honed in on my sleep like for years. And the Uller, which we've talked about it before, it chills. It's a chili pad, makes your bed cold, so you need
mm,
cold for your core temperature to drop, so you can get into deep sleep. And it's temperature that wakes you back up too. Then cortisol is released, and uh, uh, as sunlight comes in, it would wake you up, right? So I'm trying to just not get hurdled by this time change. So I got my my lamp that rises like the sun, and I timed it with my Uller to warm up, and so I've got this heat. It kicks on at typically 5:30, and well, actually, it depends on the day of the week, but between 5 and 5:30. Saturday is at 4. It comes on, and so it comes on, and then the light comes on at the same time, and it feels like the sun is rising, and I'm warming up, and I typically most of the time I'm jumping out of the bed here since then. It's been really good, and I've had trouble sleeping because of the time change, but I've felt good waking up at the same time. And
Mm.
that's one of the major tips I'd say is if you can
Consistency.
just make sure you set your body's clock by the time you go to bed and the time you wake up, or the way that you wake up. I heard this, and so I've been taking it to heart. But it's the 90-minute cycles. So let's say if you sleep for 8 hours, well, that's not, if you add up all the 90-minute cycles, you're going to be off on that. You're going to
Mm.
wake up in the middle of a cycle, so you'd almost time it to where you're. So let's say it'd be 90 minutes, and you have 5 cycles. You'd be 7.5 hours, right? Is
Yes.
that right? Yeah, 7.5.
Yeah, sounds
And
right.
if you want to do 6 cycles, then you would do 9 hours of sleep, or whatever that is for you. But I never heard of that before. But I heard that, and I was like, that's another thing to hack to improve upon, another level up moment. I'm going to
Yeah.
add that in there and change that up, because it can make a huge difference. Because if you get woken up while you're in the middle of a cycle, you ever wonder why am I so groggy? Why do I feel not feel good? Because
Yes.
the cycle, you've woken up in the middle of a cycle, and that can make a difference too. And then that impacts ghrelin and leptin, like your hunger hormones, and it can make you
Yes.
more
Big time.
hungry. It can lower your
Mm.
willpower, so you end up making poor decisions with eating. It cascades, and yeah, we're going down the rabbit hole here, but the importance of sleep is there.
Yeah. And then the final one is it without I feel like you can have the prioritizing sleep, the whole foods, the hydration, the move the body, but if you can't do this one right here, then all the other ones are not able to optimize and get to where you want to go, which is mastering stress management. And if
Mm,
anybody has stressed out over the years, it's been myself. And I know you and can probably say the same thing.
big time.
So being able to manage that stress with kids, work, business, exercise, not only emotional stress, but physical stress too.
Yeah.
If you're competing and you're doing these different events, it impacts your health, your productivity, your mood, which creates that vicious cycle. And so for me, one of the things that I've learned to manage is whether it's deep breathing, box breathing. So 4, 4, 4, 4. So 4 seconds in, 4 seconds hold the breath, 4 seconds let out the breath through the mouth, and then 4 seconds leaving the breath out. So it's 4, 4, 4, 4. We actually have it on our Garmin. Also journaling too. I talk to a lot of individuals that when they wake up during the night, like my wife, she wakes up around 2 o'clock. And I said, well, why do you wake up at 2 o'clock? She's like, well, for the last couple of months, it's been because of the air filter, right? And I was like, well, what do you do after that? Do you go back to sleep? Because I do the box breathing. I typically go back to sleep. She goes, no. I was like, well, what do you start worrying about or thinking about? She goes, everything that I need to do the next day. I'm like,
Mm,
okay, well, tell me more. I was like, do you journal that before the night before? She goes, no. I was like, all right, well, and so that's a whole nother conversation. But what I've learned to do in the afternoon time is journal. Like, what do I need to get done tomorrow? So I don't,
mm.
if I do wake up during the night, then I know that it's documented. I've journaled about it, just written it down, made some bullet points, and it's just help get it out on paper so I can help manage that stress because I'm just like you listening to this. I wake up in the middle of the night. I'm an imperfect human being. I start having thoughts and stress and anxiety, but I know that it's either documented or I've journaled about it. And so I've gotten it out of my brain. So I'm not sitting there just spinning and thinking about, okay, well, you know what? Let me go ahead and get up and go work on an email or a customer. No, that's separated. That's on do not disturb. My phone's in the bathroom. It's 15 feet away from me. I can go back to sleep, focus on my breath, and and in hopes to get back to that sleep. So anything on that, Ewan, managing
Yeah,
stress?
and plugging in those breathing things throughout the day. Like I'm
Oh, that's
notorious
good.
for just pushing hard, like hard, just keep go go go. I'll rest at the end of the day, but I'm realizing no, it's super important to get rest throughout 90 minutes, 60, 90 minutes. Do some breath work as well. 10 minute,
Yes.
5 minute, 20 minute meditation through the day, just to so if your stress levels are going up, don't let them redline because it's very hard to get back from red line. Try and catch them
So
before they get there. and
So
maintain it.
true.
It makes a difference.
Pure gold. So, guys, wrapping things up. So, you can do these simple changes to transform your health. Yes, you can do this. Prioritize whole foods over processed foods. Follow that 80-20 rule. Improve hydration. Get your body moving. Prioritize quality sleep and manage stress management. And no doubt, focus on just one little thing, one little incremental. What is one little thing that you can do today after this podcast that you're going to do? Share it with your spouse, share it with a friend, share it with the business partner, share it with your team members. You listening to this, so you can hold each other accountable and talk about it, because once you talk about it, that's where the iron sharpens iron, and you can hold each other accountable and continue to pay it forward. Outside of that, thank you so much for listening to this. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you leave us a positive review on what you liked about the show, because we greatly appreciate any feedback. That's how we grow. And if there's any topics or challenges that you're running into that you want to hear more of, shoot us a DM, shoot us a text message, or let us know in the review comments. Outside of that, level up and live.
Level up and live.